Okay, so these are some selected problems from the differential calculus unit review sheet. Okay, question number 5, I'm going to go over 5a and b. So if I want to find the second derivative of this, I need to first of all find the first derivative, okay, using product rule. So it's going to be e to the x sine 2x, so the derivative of e to the x plus the derivative of sine, it's going to be cosine, so it'll be cosine 2x times chain rule, so I'm going to need to times that by 2. I'm going to put the 2 up front just so that's a little bit easier to do the second derivative. So the second derivative then, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use product rule, e to the x sine 2x plus e to the x cosine 2x, cosine 2x times 2. So that part there represents the first part derivative, and then I need to differentiate the second part there. So plus, okay, it's going to be 2, I'm just going to leave the 2 on the outside, e to the x cos 2x plus e to the x negative sine 2x times 2. Okay, so that's going to just highlight that. That part there gives us this second derivative here. There are some like terms here we should probably cancel out. So for example, there looks to be negative 4 e to the x sine 2x, and there's 1 e to the sine 2x. So my final answer when I simplify some of this, I'm just going to do that up here, I'm going to end up with, looks like negative 3 e to the x sine 2x's. Okay, so that's my sine 2x terms. Here I'm going to have e to the x cos 2x, 2 e to the x cos 2x. It looks like I got 2 of those, or 4 of those, so it's going to be plus 4 e to the x cos 2x. Okay. If I look at the next one here, again, the first derivative, my first derivative is going to use the quotient rule. So it's going to be 1 times e to the x minus x times the derivative of e to the x all over e to the x squared. Okay, the e to the x's cancel out, so I end up with 1 minus x over e to the x. So that is f prime. Do it again to get the second derivative. Okay, so it's going to be derivative of the top, which is going to be negative 1 times e to the x minus 1 minus x times the derivative of e to the x times e to the x squared. Again, there's common factor of e to the x. So I'm going to simplify that into positive x. Minus 1 is minus 2 on top over e to the x. Okay. Looking at the next one here, question number 6, we'll do D, E, and F. Okay, question number 6, this one here uses quotient rules. I might run out of space here, so I might have to move it over, but quotient and product rule. So we're going to take 1 times ln x, so ln root x, plus x times the derivative of ln is, or ln of root x is times 1 over root x times 1 over 2 root x. Okay, and then that's going to be times e to the x, the denominator minus, so this is going to be the numerator derivative times the denominator minus the numerator times the derivative of the denominator, okay, all over the denominator squared. And again, we can simplify some of this. We probably should have taken the square root out as a coefficient of 1/2, and that would have made things maybe a little bit easier, but again, this is essentially a derivative. I'll do just a basic simplification here. We'll cancel out those. Okay, we're going to end up with 1 over x here. I'm going to take that 1/2 out. Okay, so we end up with, looks like log root x. So I'm going to go 1/2 x. This is going to be, the x's cancel. Okay, so we end up with root x in the denominator, x. So it's going to be plus 1/2 minus, and I'm going to factor out that 1/2 log x. And that's all over e to the x. Okay, and again, you can group some things together if you like. For E, okay, we need to use product rule and then chain rule. So f prime is going to be equal to 1 times e to the x squared over log 2. That is not a function. Remember, log 2 is a number, plus x e to the x squared over log 2 times the derivative of the inside. So there, that's just a constant, and then it's going to be times 2x, a derivative of that. And again, you can factor out some pieces there and clean that up a little bit if you like. Okay, so x squared over log 2. Okay, it's going to be 1, what is it? 1 plus 2x squared over log 2. Okay, that would be the simplified form. For f here, again, we're going to use the quotient rule, and it's an embedded function, so we're going to use chain rule. So we're going to differentiate the top. Actually, you know what I'm going to do before this? This is what I should have done the previous one. We're going to do d by dx of 1/2 log, I'll put that 1/2 like this, 1/2 log 2x minus 1. Okay, and that's all over x squared. So I've taken the power 1/2 out of the log, and then I'll differentiate this quotient here. So this is going to be equal to 1/2, applying the quotient rule, 1 over 2x minus 1, the derivative of the top, times the denominator, minus the top, log 2x minus 1, times the derivative of the denominator, all over the denominator squared. And again, there's a little bit of simplification that you can do here. Not a whole lot though. You might want to put that, get rid of the complex fraction, but I'm just going to leave it like that. That's essentially what it is.